Recording live from Glory Hole Studios in Chicago and beyond. This is Cognitive Dissonance. Every episode we blast anyone who gets in our way. We bring critical thinking, skepticism, and irreverence to any topic that makes the news, makes it big, or makes us mad. It's skeptical, it's political, and there is no welcome mat. Today is Thursday, June the 20th. See, so we got to talk a little bit more about modest needs.
Yeah, we talked last week about modest needs for an extensive period of time, maybe about a quarter of the show.
Yeah,
last
chunk,
week was,
good chunk.
Was modest needs. So if you missed it, go back and listen to the piece on modest needs. The short answer is that we will not be using modest needs in the future. Modest needs was brought up on charges. The founder and I guess president, I don't know what his job title is, but the person who runs Modest Needs was indicted on embezzlement charges. So if you want to hear all about that, Tom read the entire New York Times article. It's out there last week. 15 minutes of the show went to that. I wanted to mention, though, because I got a ton of messages. It was really great. The support we got from the community that was like, hey, man, you guys were really hard on yourself. You don't need to be that hard on yourself. But a bunch of people were telling me like, Cecil, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. I know it's not my fault. And I said last week that I was to blame, but I want to give people an analogy so they understand, and maybe they'll get their head in the right position here. If you were to say to me, hey, Cecil, you know a cat sitter? And I said, sure, I know a cat sitter. I'll hook you up with my cat sitter. And my cat sitter goes to your house, and while they're there, they steal $2,000 from you. And you call me and you say, hey, man, dude, I got burglarized by that cat sitter you gave me. I had nothing to do with it. I had no idea the cat sitter was somebody who was going to do that to you. I had no idea. I didn't facilitate it in any way, but I'm still fucking mortified by it.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely mortified. I introduced you, right? I introduced you to this charity. And so I feel mortified that they did this. There's nothing I can do about it. I wasn't part of it. I didn't do anything. I didn't even do anything wrong. All I did was, in fact, I think I did everything right. I was just had by somebody, but I still feel mortified because I put my trust in somebody and then I vouched for them. And that's a problem.
Yes.
That's my own, it's going to be my own headspace that I have to get out of. But I recognize that you don't need to send me a message. I get it. I'm not to blame. I understand I'm not to blame, but there definitely is something there where, when you vouch for somebody, you feel even remotely responsible for it.
Yeah, I mean, like when Cecil and I were talking about it, like just like another analogy we were talking about is like, if you say, hey, where should I go out to dinner? I'm going to be in town. And I'm like, oh, go to my favorite restaurant. Go to Lou's. Can't go wrong at Lou's. Then you go to Lou's and the food is shit and you get food poisoning. I would feel like an asshole for recommending Lou's, right? So I feel the same way. I've been wrestling with the same thing all week because I have sat at this microphone or some version of this microphone since 2018 being
Before then, it was 2015 was when we found
Jesus.
them, right? It was a long time ago, yeah.
Being like, these guys are awesome. We met Keith. Love this guy. Here's a story. Let's have him on the show. Modest needs this. Modest needs that. And then it's like, he stole your money. And I'm like, he stole my money too. Like I donated a lot of my own money. I got fucking had too.
Allegedly stole money.
Allegedly. I said allegedly before I said all the rest of the things that I said. If you didn't hear it, that's because your ears were clogged with allegedlys.
I don't like lawsuits.
But like I am like I'm as victimized as any donor, right? Yeah. Because I was also a donor. But I was also the guy on the microphone being like, here's my boy, and then, my boy allegedly stole a bunch of money. Yeah. So like, that sucks. It
sucks all around.
Yeah.
We actually, just to let people know, we wound up having a conversation with the Scathing guys this week to talk about the next steps, what our next charity is going to be. And we had a really good conversation, and probably in maybe a month or two, we'll have some more information about where we're going with the next Vulgarity for Charity. But the Vulgarity for Charity is not stopping. We're going to continue doing it. We're not going to stop doing it. We're just going to find a new charity. And so now we're on the lookout for a new charity.
I will say too, overwhelmingly I don't think there's any exception actually. So overwhelmingly, like to 100%, the messages that we did receive were basically find another charity, let us support that. Yeah. I think that the community is hungry to organize, to collectively give, to flex our humanitarian muscle as a secular community.
Absolutely.
I believe that.
Yeah.
I do. I believe that. So we will do the work of finding a charity. Vulgarity for charity will continue. Modest Needs will be discontinued.
Yeah. But another charity
will be found.
And in the last 5 years, over $800,000 just from our community. And that's not including any matches from another place. That was just money from our community. So over $800,000 in 5 years. That's a lot of money.
It's enormous. So Cecil, before we do stories, real quick, and it just occurred to me, we should talk very briefly about vaccines. And the reason we should talk about vaccines is because personally right now, I have shingles, and I only bring it up because if you are 50 years or older, you can get a vaccination to not have shingles. And I would heartily recommend getting that vaccine. I just tell a quick story. I knew that the shingles vaccine was available. I knew that it was only available to people 50 years and older. I have asked my doctor more than once, can't you just give it to me anyway? I don't want shingles. And the only reason it was on my mind is because Haley got it. When we were first dating, she was under a lot of stress. She was finishing college. There was a lot going on. Stress is often something that knocks your immune system down. So she got shingles. So it's always been something that's been like, I don't want that. That sucks. Like, that looks like it hurts. And my doctor's like, no, you can't have it. Like, until you're 50, you cannot have it. I'm like, fuck, 46, can't have it. I'm like, I got 4 years. What are the odds? Well, the odds.
What are the odds?
But I do want to say, there are vaccinations so that nobody needs to get chickenpox. There are vaccinations so that nobody needs to get shingles if you're 50 and over. If you are in either of those categories where those vaccines are available to you, it's just another one of these moments, I think, where I can be like, hey, my kids will never have to do this. I was looking around at my kids and I'm like, they're all vaccinated from chickenpox. They'll never have chickenpox.
They never had chickenpox, huh?
No. They're all of an age, and I have scars all over my chest and back, small ones from chickenpox. I had it real bad. So they're not going to have chickenpox. They're not going to get scars. They're not going to have shingles. This is just a scourge they don't have to deal with.
Chickenpox sucks.
Chickenpox sucks so bad.
Chickenpox sucks, bro.
Yeah.
Fuck. I got it late in life. I got it when I was 17. It was the worst, dude. It was so bad. So bad.
I have a super mild case of shingles, but from what I'm to understand, it can be agonizing. You can go deaf. You can go blind.
Jesus Christ.
It can fuck you up.
Get vaccinated if you
Get vaccinated is my message, right?
If you reach that age bracket, do it.
Just fucking get that. Don't catch diseases you don't need.
Do it.
Republicans and Democrats don't seem to get along. Maybe it's time we got together, started a party of our own. We've been silent for so long now, I hope it's not too late. Put the country back into the hands of the one that made it great. How many cried his holy name when the terrorists attacked? Hurricanes, winds, and rains keep on coming back. What's next for us does it take to make us understand? Need to take this country back, put it back into God's hand. Don't you wish we could go back to 1961 again?
All right, this story comes from the New York Times. Louisiana requires all public classrooms to display 10 commandments. A law signed by Governor Jeff Landry on Wednesday makes the state the only one with such a mandate. The fucking 10 commandments, Cecil. What? Can you double check for me? When was this? What year was this fucking story?
Today at 7:51.
2024, man. The 10 commandments. Can we just have a quick 10 commandments review?
Sure, why don't I go to Wiki? Let's go to Wiki real quick.
Fucking stupid and pointless and fucking at best amoral and at worst genuinely immoral
So
these
Tom,
10 commandments
can you just
are.
read them off real quick? Let's
I'm gonna read
let's
these
just do
stupid
it.
fucking commandments.
Well, so now they change a little bit. I think there's 3 versions on this page, but basically they're all pretty much the same.
All right, so the first commandment.
Is that even a commandment? I guess it is.
I am the Lord thy God. Thou shalt have no other gods before me.
Tom, you are the Lord thy God.
I am. Thou shalt. Okay, so the first one is be a Christian.
Be a Christian.
And somehow this does not endorse Christianity.
The first one has nothing to do with
the very first commandment.
I mean, I wasn't going to say most people, because most people in the country are already Christian, but it doesn't have a lot to do with some population, right?
Right.
Doesn't have anything to do with me.
Dude.
So it wouldn't have anything to do with any of your kids.
Well, it doesn't have anything to do with Jewish people
Yeah.
or Muslims or like Hindu
Hindus
or
or
Sikh or like
Buddhists.
Buddhists or I mean I could just keep going. Like this is not like a set of universal principles is what I'm trying to drive home by reading these stupid things.
It's certainly not going to get any better until about 6. So
Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image.
Okay.
That's fucking stupid.
Cool.
Who cares? Immediately when I read that, I'm reminded of when the Taliban went around blowing up fucking statues that were 6,000 years old because they were like, art makes us feel afraid or whatever their fucking nonsense was. This is who we should model ourselves after.
We should definitely do that, what they do.
Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain.
It's very relevant in today's.
Don't give a shit.
God, that's stupid.
Jesus Christ, that's stupid. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy in this economy?
you get Jesus is driving his Uber around.
Yeah, well, I don't, first of all,
take Sunday.
I don't actually know if the
like
Sabbath
business
is
day.
technically Saturday or Sunday.
They don't either.
I don't think
That's
anyone
the thing
knows.
is they don't know either.
Right?
They just pick a day.
But I know that all week, everybody's working for the weekend. So like it comes around, I'm not spending that thing in church. Get the fuck out of here. It's nonsense. All right.
Observe. So is that the?
I guess that's the same one because it says on the side, I think,
sure.
Honor thy father and thy mother.
Okay,
so
where's their
I
assholes?
don't know. Yeah, no. All my mom does is drink booze and kill monkeys. What the fuck am I gonna do with that?
What if they like fucking hurt you?
Yeah.
Like, why do I have to honor somebody that hurt me? Like what is that about? That's stupid.
No, stupid. Genuinely bad advice.
Honor them if they're fucking worth honoring and they honor you, right? That's not part of it. It's not honor your children. It's not honor each other. It's honor your parents because they deserve it.
And like let's pause there, right? Because like importantly, if you were to think of an actually moral system, the directionality of the moral imperative would have to come from those who have power in the direction of those who are less powerful.
Absolutely.
So this is actually an immoral commandment because it requires that person who is less powerful to deliver unto the more powerful. So
Absolutely.
I don't know, go fuck yourself sideways with your honor thy father and thy mother. Then you get this fucking one. This is what no one ever thought of this before. This was a really revolutionary ethics moment. Thou shalt not murder.
But it's not even real though, right? Because they say thou shalt not murder.
Some reads thou shalt not kill.
Yeah, some read thou shalt not kill. Kill's right out because
we've gotten rid of it. We're not pretending.
But thou shalt not murder. If that's what it is, thou shalt not murder. Cool. But then what do they do in Florida when they've gunned down people that are like just they get into an argument with?
Well, we redefine it so it's not murder.
Exactly. So
it doesn't say thou shalt not manslaughter.
But it's literally murder. Like when somebody comes and they say that stand your ground stuff, you're murdering somebody.
Yeah.
But they don't believe this. Like you put it on the wall and you don't
believe this shit. No, you don't believe this shit. All right, so, but I love the idea that we had that this is some revolutionary ethical moment, right? That before this, people were going around committing murder, and everybody was like, "That tracks and seems fine."
Can somebody write it down? If you write it down, then I'll just follow it. But if you don't write it down, I'm just going to murder.
I don't
crazy.
know. And everybody around you didn't even know that was wrong.
I'm going to forget eggs. I won't get those and dryer sheets unless you write it down.
Thou shalt not commit adultery.
I'm glad we're putting this on children's classrooms so I can explain to them what adultery is.
Dude, for real. That's actually an interesting point, right? Because all the time you get the Christians who are like, oh my God, if I watch Modern Family on TV and I see a gay couple, I'm going to have to explain that sometimes people love each other that aren't opposite genitally, right? I'm going to have to explain that. And you're like, oh, actually, first of all, you don't. It's self-evident. Nobody really ever asks about it. It's just obvious that sometimes people love each other. I don't have to explain anything sexual about that. I can literally just say, and I can tell you from having kids, you can literally just say, yeah, two men love each other. Two women love each other. And then kids are like, neat, Legos. They don't give a fuck. But if I've got something, thou shalt not commit adultery, that's about fucking, dude. That's what that's about.
It's literally boiling down a relationship to sex too.
Right. That's very true. Yeah.
So now you've got to explain, well, what's adultery? Well, adultery is when somebody cheats on someone. What does cheating mean?
Right.
What do you mean? you know? And so now you've got to explain the whole experience of monogamy. You've got to explain all of that and the promises and covenants that people make when they get married.
Right. Yep.
And then you've got to explain that somebody had sex outside of wedlock and all this. I mean, like, it's just a mess. Like,
a
you're
fucking
basically telling the teacher, please explain to my kid what it means to have a Christian marriage.
Right. Exactly. It's a total mess. It's also, again, in terms of like the sophistication of the ethics here, it is wildly unsophisticated ethics, right?
Yeah.
And I don't care what your feelings are about monogamy or polyamory or whatever. Like, adultery is necessarily wrong because it involves the breaking of covenants,
Sure,
right? If you don't have that as a covenant, you cannot commit adultery in that vein, right? So it's like, before this, nobody was like, well, we made these covenants to each other, but then we didn't know it was wrong to break them.
I just had no idea. I just ran around with I just ran into things with my penis.
Just fucking the wall. All right, then thou shalt not steal. Okay?
Pretty self-evident.
Fine,
Sure.
yeah. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor.
Okay.
Sure. Thou shalt not cover thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not cover thy neighbor's wife.
A lot of coveting going on here, let me tell you.
Or his slaves.
That's good. I'm glad that's on a wall in a school in Alabama or wherever.
Hey, fucking Louisiana. Also, like, if I'm not supposed to covet his slaves, embedded in that language, and it is not subtle, is the idea that slaves are okay, and not only okay, but that I should want them too.
Yeah.
Because these are things listed out that I am supposed to also want.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's not just like, this is an explicit endorsement of slavery.
Sure.
Or his animals or anything of thy neighbor.
And I will point out too, like, the slaves part is in a lot of different translations. If you look at this, it's on like a bunch of these translations are all, they all list it, right? That slaves piece. I want to point out too, you know, of the ones we mentioned, 2 of them are laws. And the reason that they gave that this needs to be in classes, and he even said it today when he signed the bill, was if they want to understand society, they need to understand where our laws come from. And I'm thinking, your laws don't come from here, because there's no law that I have to honor my mother and my father. There's no law that I can't covet. I mean, shit, we have a fucking literal covet fucking system. Like, the fucking capitalist system is a covet system, man. It's built on coveting. And then all the other shit that they're talking about, none of these are laws. I don't have to remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy, or else I get hit in the head by a fucking police officer and thrown on the ground. I don't have to keep it holy at all. I don't have to do any of these things except for not murdering and not stealing. The rest of them, wide open.
Yep.
2 of them.
Perfectly fine.
So you're lying. You're saying this is where we get our ideas about laws. No, it's not.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. Not at all. Because you don't even get your laws from here.
No, this is nothing. These are fundamentally bad. They're either wildly, painfully, childishly simplistic, genuinely immoral, or amoral. Mm-hmm. Like, at the best, you're like, well, that's nothing. Like, the one that's like nothing is like, don't take the name of the Lord God, thy God in vain. That's not. I read that. Great. I'm like, that's fucking nothing.
Who cares?
That's nothing. Yeah. No one cares about it. Louisiana, every fucking classroom.
You could write such a better list in 5 minutes. You could write a better list. Hell, you could just do one commandment, like treat other people how you would want to be treated. Like, that's it.
You know, it's so funny too, because that golden rule principle, so many people misattribute that as if it were biblical. It's not biblical. The golden rule is nowhere in the Bible. It's not a biblical principle.
They have I think Jesus has like a silver rule. I think Jesus does like treat others as they treat you, which is like the silver one or whatever.
Is it like
yeah, I think so.
So like if somebody gives me a smack upside the head, I can smack them upside the head back?
There's the golden, which is treat others how you'd want to be treated. There's the silver, treat others as they treat you. And then there's the iron, which is treat others before they treat you. So like there's different thoughts on that, like dumbass philosophy, but it's so like a simple, like something like that is simple. Something like that is easy. It's, teaching kids how to share, teaching kids how to be moral in society in very easy ways on just like how they interact with each other in a school is easy. It's not hard to do. I know I was taught all those things, not to share. You got to make sure you share. Don't punch your fucking neighbor. Don't pinch people. Don't, chew with your mouth closed. All these little things that you learned when you were a kid is easy to teach all these kids, and they're way more impactful than anything on this list.
Anything. And it's not like the Bible, like it's not like the 10 Commandments popped into existence. You know, I don't believe the stupid story about the tablets. That's insane. But like, it's not like the 10 Commandments became widely known and then philosophers and ethicists were just like, well, that settled it all.
Yeah.
It's not like Kant was like, nothing left to write about here. I guess it's all worked out. Somebody should have just read the Bible. It literally answers no important ethical questions. It's
Really
not
doesn't.
even important ethically. What are the commandments from the Satanic Temple? Because I think they're pretty good.
Okay.
Am I crazy?
I don't know. We'll take a look.
I think the Satanists put together a pretty good list, if I'm not mistaken, of their, I don't know if they call them commandments. I think they call them something else, but. So here are the ones that the Satanic Temple came up with. Let's compare and contrast for a moment. See which ones you'd rather have in your kid's classroom. First one should strive to act with compassion and empathy toward all creatures in accordance with reason. That's hard to, I'm struggling to struggle with that, Cecil. I want to quibble here.
It feels like a pretty easy and simple thing to tell someone, and then they might understand it.
The struggle for justice is an ongoing and necessary pursuit that should prevail over laws and institutions.
Okay. Sounds
Sure,
great.
yeah. 3, one's body is inviolable, subject to one's own will alone.
All right.
That covers a lot of ground.
Sure does.
4, the freedoms of others should be respected, including the freedom to offend. To willfully and unjustly encroach upon the freedoms of another is to forego one's own.
Great.
Yeah, good. All right. 5, beliefs should conform to one's best scientific understanding of the world. One should take care never to distort scientific facts to fit one's beliefs.
They're pretty good so far.
All right.
I can't say I'm down
struggling
on
here.
any of these.
6, people are fallible. If one makes a mistake, one should do one's best to rectify it and resolve any harm that might have been caused. Let me pause here and tell you what I love about this one. It's self-directed, right? When I read this isn't about my relationship to your errors. This is about my relationship to my errors, which as a moral principle is a better principle because it allows me to reflect and act. It's not like I have to forgive you when you hurt me. It's like, hey, you're going to fuck up, self. And when you do, you're going to have to do some work to fix that. Oh, that's way better. It's way better.
I think, too, that this is something that people really struggle with and might need a reminder about.
Yes.
Right? Instead of just, hey, don't kill people. Okay, I literally never thought I was gonna. So, okay, I guess I'll just be not killing people because I never planned to do that.
Wait, let me check the book. No, I still can't. Okay.
This one, though, is like, oh, you know what? I do make mistakes on occasion, and sometimes I beat myself up over it. And maybe I should definitely try to resolve things, maybe resolve the harm that's been caused, not just to me, but to other people.
Right.
And that's important, something you need to remember, because sometimes we get caught inward when we make mistakes. Sometimes we don't think about the effects on other people. That's a great commandment.
It's a great tenet.
I would want that on my wall with a cat hanging from a branch or whatever. Like I would put there.
I think there's still 7 tenets. The 8th one should be hang in there, baby.
Hang in there, baby. Weekend's coming. The Sabbath day's coming.
We don't know what it is, but we think it's somewhere toward the end of the week.
Yeah.
By the way, just as a point of fact, Sunday is the last day of the week, and I don't care what anyone says.
I'm okay with that. I'm fine with
There
that.
you go.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
It's not the start of the week.
Anyone who's like, Sunday's the beginning of the week.
It's not.
Fuck
No, it's not.
you.
Absolutely
You're wrong.
not. Monday is the beginning.
Monday's the beginning of the week, and if you don't think that's true, you're wrong,
You're
and you should
absolutely
feel
wrong.
bad. All right, number 7. Every tenet is a guiding principle designed to inspire nobility in action and thought. The spirit of compassion, wisdom, and justice should always prevail over the written or spoken word. I mean, these are better.
Good. These are good.
We have 3 extras. There's 3 slots left.
You can even put more in. What I like too is I hope that, I don't think it will, because this is very specifically the 10 commandments that were put in these schools. I hope that other religions, including this, put theirs in schools too, or petition to put theirs in schools.
I do too, man.
So that their lists of rules come in. The other thing I wanted to talk about too is like, I was watching a story about this, and they were showing, you ever seen that, the 10 Commandments with Charlton Heston?
I've not seen it, no.
Seen it? It's fucking amazing. His big ass fucking white beard.
I've seen like
and
stills
he's like
from it and
holding
shit.
these
Yeah.
fucking things, and he's screaming. But it got me thinking. It was like, here's a second way to get Charlton Heston in schools. Not only are you getting this,
Yes.
but the NRA.
The NRA.
Yeah. You know what I mean? It's the second way. Like Charlton Heston should be the spokesperson for American schools at this
You can
point.
have my commandments when you pry them out of my cold, dead hands.
Because he's got 10 commandments in one hand and like an Uzi in the other.
So, do you come to Milwaukee often?
Well, I'm a regular visitor here, but Milwaukee has certainly had its share of visitors. The French missionaries and explorers were coming here as early as the late 1600s to trade with the Native Americans.
In fact, isn't Milwaukee an Indian name?
Yes, Pete, it is. Actually, it's pronounced Milwaukee, which is Algonquin for the good land.
I was not aware of that.
I think one of the most interesting aspects of Milwaukee is the fact that it's the only major American city to have ever elected 3 socialist mayors.
Does this guy know how to party or what? Huh? Huh? Okay.
Stories from New Republic. Republicans in panic mode after Trump trashes Milwaukee. Donald Trump attacked Milwaukee in a meeting with Republicans on the Hill, and now Republicans are desperately trying to cover for him. So what he said was something along the lines of, we're having our convention in Milwaukee. That's a terrible city.
It's a horrible city. Yeah. And so initially this was just reported by a person named Jake Sherman who works for, I don't even know what. It's like a tweet. But it was also independently confirmed by NBC News. So this has been a big story this week because it wasn't just a guy who tweeted it out. It was a guy who tweeted it out and then other people confirmed that he actually said this. So he shit on the place where they're going to have their convention. This also happens to be a swing state that he just barely lost.
I know, man. What a goddamned idiot Trump is. You are having your convention. You might not even be able to be there, man. Like, isn't he like being sentenced at that time?
On the 11th.
Jesus Christ. I mean, what a fucking mess we're in right now, where the president, I think the thing that I want to focus on here is that Trump has never really tried or even made a lot of noise about trying to be the president for everybody.
No, not even a chance. No, not even close. Not even close.
No. He has called, how many cities did he call like disgusting or vermin infested or rat holes? I mean, remember him describing Baltimore and San Francisco and Chicago. This guy is not a patriot of any kind. He doesn't love America.
Crazy too, because he's calling all these places like shitholes, and you're like, dude, you're from New York. Like, it's the biggest shithole.
Right? He's from New York, and then he moved to Florida, for God's sake.
Hey, it's not even possible, really, to downgrade from New York, but he did somehow.
What are you talking about? Like, you're in a swamp, man.
Yeah.
You live in a fucking sweltering swamp.
He moved from garbage juice on the streets to hot garbage. Like, that's what he moved. He just moved garbage piles. Like, it's foul.
Fuck.
Yeah, but him saying all this stuff, a ton of Republicans had to jump on and be like, oh, no, what he meant was about this. Oh, and he didn't mean it that way. He meant it this way. So in some ways, they confirmed that he said it. They just said, oh, it's about voter fraud or whatever.
And I think realistically, all of this is designed to undermine the public trust. And we know it. We know it for sure. Because for Trump specifically, he started this undermining before the 2016 election.
Yeah, before he was ever even elected to
not
office.
even the 2020.
Yeah, before he was ever even elected to office.
He began undermining the public trust.
He was saying the exact
in 2015.
same stuff. Exact same stuff. It's rigged. That's all rigged. That's rigged. That's rigged. And then he won. And he was like, didn't know what to do.
Right. He had no idea. He caught the car.
Yep.
You know, you might want to watch what you say, bitch.
So this story comes from Salon.com. Paul Ryan says Trump put himself above the Constitution and calls him unfit for office.
Yeah, and Trump, this came out the day before the previous story. Tom, if I was going to have you guess, where do you think District 1 is in Wisconsin, where he was the...
Milwaukee. What?
I think that Trump can't control himself.
Yeah.
And so when somebody from there says something, he immediately is like, well, that's a garbage city and he's a garbage person and blah, blah, blah. But he was upset with with Paul
with Paul
Ryan,
Ryan
saying something about him.
Cecil
Even though
hadn't
Paul
even thought
Ryan's
of
an
it that way.
absolute scumbag, by the
He
way.
is.
Paul Ryan's a fucking garbage person. So Trump's actually right on everything he calls. Like, he's actually right. Like, once in a while, Trump's right, and he's right at this case because Paul Ryan's a terrible person. And Paul Ryan, you know, all these people that want to walk away from Trump as if they didn't create him. And
Oh, I know, man.
you have no sympathy for me. If he turns and bites your head off like the demon he is, I literally don't care.
And that's a great analogy. Like he does feel, this feels like the Republicans are like mating with the praying mantis and having their heads bitten off after coitus, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just, you guys caught it. This is what you built. This is what you worked
guys
for.
did this.
100%. You can't unown this now. You have to acknowledge that. You can't unown this.
Oh my gosh, it's so hot out here. What? Why are we out here? It's crazy. The heat. There's nothing but heat everywhere. I gotta go back inside. Oh gosh. Wait, why is it hot in here? Oh my god, it's hot everywhere. Wait, the heat. It's coming from somewhere specific. What's this? A shipment from adamandeve.com when I use the code GLORY? Oh my gosh. That is bringing hotness inside the house, because when you go to adamandeve.com, you get 50% off almost any one item when you use the code GLORY. And then Adam and Eve throws on it's actually hot in here. Okay, hold on. Whew. Then they put on the real hot stuff. 3 free gifts, 6 free spicy movies. I can't take any more heat. I'm gonna bust, like in the sense that my body is gonna explode. And free shipping, right? Yes, that's what. And oh wait, right? Yes. Okay, I'm losing my mind. What is it? The GLORY. I'm so hot and overheated. It's just too much hotness. But if you want the too much hotness, go to adamandeve.com and use code GLORY, because you get the 50% off almost any one item, 3 free gifts, 6 free spicy movies, and free indiscreet shipping. So why don't you hop on over there today? adamandeve.com. Tell them we sent you, but if you use the code GLORY, otherwise they won't know, and then they don't like us. So, but they will if you use the code GLORY, and then you also get free stuff. So why aren't you doing that? Please do that. Thank you so much. Do it. Bye-bye. And then do it. You know what I mean? Like it after we do. Okay. Bye.
Better abort this task at once, or we could have an exploding clergyman filling the air with pent-up sexual energy.
Oh my God. This is everything. This is from the independent pro-life candidate in Colorado race asked about girlfriend's abortion in excruciating interview.
Here we go. Let's watch. Now they cut a little pieces out of it. They kept some. It's still cringe, but it's not as cringe as it could be.
If abortion was the best choice for your girlfriend, why try to deny that choice to other women?
So let me give you some context about that situation, because I'm a pro-life Catholic, and I believe everyone should choose life. Now, if you listen to my presentation on the House floor, did you listen to it?
I did, in fact. I just quoted from it.
Okay, so what was the major theme, and what did I had to repeat probably 20 times?
In
Hold on,
fairness,
let me help you.
Oh, I thought you were asking me a question.
No, go ahead.
In fairness, your logic was a bit scattered in that speech. What I'm asking you about is the fact that you said that you respected your girlfriend's right to an abortion and then gave her money to help her through an important time to live her best life.
You did exactly what I did.
But yet you've tried to deny that to other women. And I'm asking, why is an abortion good for your girlfriend, bad for other women? That's my question. Simple question.
Okay. She had an abortion. Was that her choice? Yes. Did she have that right? Yes. Was it my choice, Kyle? No.
Why do you seek to deny the choice that you said was best for your girlfriend's life?
Let me finish explaining.
Why do you seek to deny it to other women?
Let me. I don't. You
have voted to restrict abortion access as well.
And I have. And I'm a pro-life person. I think you should try to choose life every time. But there are exceptions. And there are times when you need abortion. Abortion is a medical procedure.
Is one of the exceptions when Richard Holtorf's the father?
No, it has nothing to say about me. Don't personalize it and make it about me. It's not.
You told the story on the House floor.
That doesn't matter.
Okay.
That doesn't.
That's fucking outstanding. This guy, he's been doing a bunch of these he's not only been a moderator at debates, but he's also been doing these interviews, and he's fucking money. This is someone who the network should pick up.
I don't know this guy.
And he asked very, very poignant questions in the debates there of Lauren Boebert.
Oh my God.
And was asking questions.
I didn't see clips from this.
Yes, really, really. This guy has been on the whole time. And so I hope the networks do
Pick
something
him up.
But this, I want to just talk very quickly about this guy who he's interviewing. This is a common thread with these Republicans. It's my abortion is the only ethical abortion.
Yep.
You know?
Oh, absolutely. And like, I know what he's trying to dance around, right? So what he's trying to dance around, the clip is edited. What he's trying to dance around is like, look, it was her right. She had the right at the time. She was going to get this abortion. I was young. I wanted to be nice and pay for it. But if you really believe that abortion is murder, you don't help pay for a murder. The thing is, you don't believe that, man. He doesn't believe that. What he's doing is he's having his cake and trying to eat it too.
Sure.
He's a guy who, I don't even care. I actually do not care at all what his actual beliefs are. I think that he's probably a person who, my guess is that he's probably a person who believes whatever's convenient for him at the fucking time.
Probably.
And I think that because what he's done is whatever was fucking convenient for him at the time.
Prove me wrong.
Right. That's why I think that. I don't like if I really believe, Cecil, if you were like, Tom, I'm going to go commit a murder, but the gun I want to use is going to be $900. Can I borrow $900? I'd be like, no, Cecil, I'm not going to fund your murder. That's easy. That's easy. You don't do this if you really have that firmly held belief.
You're absolutely right.
You just don't.
You're right. You're right. And you said it before when you were talking about IVF, right? That is the logical extension of what you think about whether or not it's a life. You either think it's a life or you don't think it's a life. Those are your two options, right? You know, I think that thinking people recognize that it does eventually become a life, but it takes a long time for it to get there. It's not a life instantaneously, and it's certainly not a life at 10 weeks when they, you stop taking mifepristone, and it's probably not a life by the time you get to, like you said, it doesn't even have actual brain activity until well into like the third trimester. So it's probably not a real life until then.
Right.
But this guy doesn't believe that. What they believe is this, that, it's the moment of conception. I heard this week, there was a daily that I listened to where they're talking to the people who went to that Baptist convention. I don't know if you heard about this.
Oh, yeah. My God, yeah.
This Baptist convention that they have, they all voted that they are not down with IVF anymore. And they had these people come out and talk about, how their family grew because of IVF. And then these Baptists all get together and then vote on what they all believe together. And a bunch of people were like, no, it's an absolute sin. It's terrible. We shouldn't do it. And so they all came out and said, no, we're not down with it. And so they caught the car with this abortion, but then they started feeding these far fringy right people who believe that, a fucking fertilized embryo is a spark of creation from God.
Yeah.
And they 100% believe this. And all the way up until that moment is protected for them. And so trust me when I say this, if they keep following this religious right down this path, it will be the Handmaid's Tale. Like 100% the Handmaid's Tale.
There's no way out of it. The thing is that the IVF vote, we talked about this, it is the only logically, morally consistent stance to take. If you're going to be an abortion kills a human being, life begins at conception, that sort of bullshit, beating heart is the definition of life, all that kind of garbage. If you're going to believe that, there's a whole bunch of other stuff that you've got to also be really fucking uncomfortable with. There's IVF, but Cecil, there's also like pulling the plug on people. You can't do that anymore, right? Because you can't stop a beating heart. The heart's beating. You can't. So we can't do any more pulling the plug. We can't do any more organ donor or organ transplants harvested from people who are alive but brain dead. We have to allow that body to expire. Then the organs, of course, will be, harvestable. You got to jump in and get them right away.
Sure.
It's a whole thing. So we've got to take a whole bunch of other things into consideration if we're going to decide that the only thing that matters about when life is real.
All the research for fetal cells.
All fetal cell research, gone. You've got to throw that away. You've got to get rid of all that. You probably should, I mean, if you think about it, you probably should discontinue any treatments that arose from fetal cell therapies or treatments. Nonetheless, if we're going to decide that the only thing that dictates whether or not somebody is alive is whether or not the heart beats, there's a lot of other shit we can't do. Whether or not like an egg is fertilized by a sperm, there's a whole lot of other stuff that all of a sudden we can't do. And there's going to be a lot of people that are going to die.
It's off the table.
Yeah.
I'm stuck in this thing! Are you crazy? Get this thing off of me!
It's okay. It's okay, man.
I'm reading this whole article, Cecil. This is the best thing. Washington Post. Between sharks and shocks, answering Trump's unanswered question. The reason I'm reading to you this article is that it is so bitchily written.
I was crying laughing.
I love this so much.
It's so good.
So we have a country that's in trouble, Donald Trump began. A lot of Trump stories begin similarly, so those in the audience at his Las Vegas rally this weekend would be forgiven for not predicting the multiple tangents the former president was about to take, even when his next sentence narrowed it down. We're going to end the mandate on electric one day. No one could have guessed what the next 2.5 minutes would bring. Sharks, MIT, electrocution, and of course, a guy who called Trump sir. It is it's so bitchy. I love it.
Amazing.
It is possible that the sheer weirdness of this story has already led to your seeing it. Transcripts of Trump's 500+ word riff spread over social media as people tried to parse it like the final exam of a 5th grade English class. If you didn't see it, allow me to offer an abridged version. The story began with Trump describing a conversation with a boat manufacturer in South Carolina. This was the person who purportedly referred to him as sir. Trump offered more familiarity with boats than his audience, again in the desert city of Las Vegas, might have possessed. I love that. I love how fucking just, with casual references to vessel lengths and motor manufacturers. The point, though, is that even this estimable industry had been afflicted by calls to reduce fossil fuel consumption. According to Trump's
scourge of mankind.
According to Trump's telling, the manufacturer was being asked to make only electric boat. But that such boats, one, were too heavy to float. Too heavy to float.
No!
Okay, we just got to pause real quick. Heavy is not why things float or not. Heavy is not a float measurement.
Actually, they make all of our battleships out of balsa wood.
Big, heavy stuff floats. Some stuff that's not heavy sinks. Density equals mass over volume. There's an equation.
Like a
here.
whole thing.
There's a buoyancy equation as well that you can use. But like, it's not just heavy stuff sinks.
Well, it's so funny because
it's not how that works.
The size of the probably the biggest vehicles we drive are boats. Probably the biggest vehicles we drive.
Barges.
They're the big, I mean, cruise, like the giant things in the ocean, those ocean liners.
Yes.
That put those fucking.
That's so true.
Like, it's probably the biggest ship, or probably the biggest thing that we pilot is a boat.
Yes. Unquestionably, that is true.
Yeah.
One might make a case for the train. Perhaps.
Because the train's longer, right? It's longer, but if you...
But I don't even know that that's
even
right.
Even a big train, could you just take it and put it on one of those things? I imagine you could.
What I know is they offload those boats onto trains. You know, they go to a shipyard.
And it's not just one train, too. I'm sure it's many trains.
So, but the point being, Boats be big and heavy.
Be big and heavy. For
It's
sure.
not like, it's so stupid. This is so stupid. Heavy does not equal float. That's not how
I feel like this disqualifies
physics
you
is.
to be president. I feel
Jesus.
like when you say this out loud, everybody just got, no, you actually just give me your voter card. You're not allowed to vote anymore.
No, you know what? There's no test. You still failed it.
When you go to the voting booth, I'm just going to hit you with this ruler until you leave.
Oh my God. Can I tell you? I got to tell you a story. So I went to the carnival this weekend with family. So the local carnival was in town. We took all the kids. We took everybody in the whole, I think we probably took most of the audience. We took that many fucking people with us to the goddamn carnival. And we're getting on this ride. And as we're standing in line, I noticed two people in front of us. There's like a gentleman, maybe 10, 15 years older than me, 55, 60, somewhere around there, wearing a fucking MAGA hat. He's wearing a Trump hat. I don't see a lot of Trump hats out in the wild. I like never see them. So it was like seeing like a fucking sloth or something. And you're just like pointing at it. And like my whole group, I'm literally like, there's a guy in a MAGA hat. And like, he's like right there. Like there's no way. Like when I whisper, everyone still hears it. I'm like, there's a guy in a MAGA hat. Shh. You know, I'm like super loud. Anyway, he's old. I don't know if he heard me. He didn't react, but he gets on the ride. I get on the ride. Seated next to me is my 10-year-old son. There is my whole group. We're all on there. We ride the ride. We disembark the ride. Now, my 10-year-old son figures out how to unlatch the belt, pull down on his restraint, and push up on the restraint. Now, he figured this out because literally everybody did the same thing, and it is the opposite of what you do to get in the ride. It's not complicated.
Yeah.
We all get off the ride, and Trump hat is stuck in his seat. And if there was ever a greater metaphor for somebody who can't get off the ride and wants to, it is a man in a Trump hat.
He has no idea how
wedged
to do it.
into his fucking seat, unable to get off the ride.
Stuck in there like a toddler in a high chair.
It was amazing.
Oh, it's so good.
He might still be on it. I don't know.
so
Man, I
good.
kind of hope they just folded the ride up and packed him away
They just
with it.
walk up and they start feeding him. They pull him out of there and burp him, set him on the ground.
I wanted to be like, yeah, man, I get it. You want off the ride, but you can't get off.
so
It's
good.
you're
So
committed.
good. Mwah.
It was great.
Perfect.
All right. 2, had to be slowly driven out to sea, which took hours.
What?
And yeah, so evidently the
electric
boats
boats take a long time to drive out to sea?
that doesn't make sense.
But don't you just like put them in the sea and then take them out?
And then they just go?
Okay.
Okay.
I don't understand. Go ahead.
3, and then had so little charge left that they could only be out for 10 minutes.
So he's saying you get out to your destination and then you only have a couple minutes to come back in.
Because you have evidently like a paltry little battery.
Sure, a little tiny battery.
But I don't know what you're using the battery for because in 2, you got towed out to sea. So what were
what
you
a shitty thing to have.
using
You would
them?
pay that much money so you could sit out in the middle of the sea and say, well, I did 10 minutes of driving on the boat. Now I gotta go back. Go ahead and take me back in, Cletus.
Also, like,
just hook me up to that back of that pontoon boat.
who is telling the manufacturer that they can only build electric boats? Literally nobody's telling car manufacturers that they can only build electric cars.
All this is a way in which to galvanize his base against anything environmental.
Yes,
and he does this all the time. He will make comments about all kinds of things. And those comments filter out into the world. And then suddenly everyone hates anything that's environmental because they treat this guy like he's a god. So whatever he says, they immediately embrace. And so they're embracing now things that, you know, could possibly employ their children in the future or whatever.
Right.
And could change how America, you know, deals with power and how we, you know, we could change the infrastructure in the entire country and, you know, give a bunch of people jobs and give people, you know, job security, et cetera. But instead what they're doing is it's conservatism at its finest, which is to block out anything new, anything that, you know, would in any way change any part of our daily life.
The first point is obviously false, given that there are lots of floating electric vehicles, including in the U.S. Navy, so there's no reason to assume that the rest would be true either. Then came Trump's question. So I said, let me ask you a question, Trump explained, and he said, nobody ever asked this question, and it must be because of MIT. My relationship to MIT, very smart. Trump's relationship to the Massachusetts Institute of Technology is that he had an uncle who taught there. And as everyone knows, you can tell a lot about a person's capabilities from what their parents' siblings do for a living.
Yikes.
That's so good.
Wolf.
That's so good.
Oof.
But back to the question. I say, What would happen if the boat sank from its weight and you're in the boat and you have this tremendously powerful battery and the battery's now underwater and there's a shark that's approximately 10 yards over there, Trump said. Then Trump went on a tangent about sharks and shark attacks. In the abstract, this was just odd, given that, just as a reminder, this was Trump trying to convince a lot of Nevadans to vote for him for president. But his aversion to sharks is well established and, in fact, overlaps with his recent criminal conviction in Manhattan. The criminal trial in New York centered on Stormy Daniels, the adult film actress who claimed to have had a sexual encounter with Trump in 2006. He denies they had sex. And the hush money payment made to her by Trump's attorney before the 2016 election. In a 2011 interview with In Touch Weekly that was published after the details of the alleged encounter between Trump and Daniels were made public in 2018, she recounted his disdain for sharks. Daniels explained he's got a fucking thing about sharks. Daniels explained that one of their encounters overlapped with the Discovery Channel's Shark Week programming. As the two sat in Trump's hotel room, he volunteered how much he hated sharks and how he wished they would all die. That his central concern related to a sinking boat would be sharks certainly bolsters the idea that Daniels was telling the truth.
Oh, God.
So here's a surreal moment, Cecil. Here's a sentence I want you to just think about. Do you remember that time a porn star and a reality TV host who's now the ex-president felon sat together in a hotel room watching Shark Week?
Wow.
Cecil, that's a sentence that I just made. It's not like refrigerator magnets.
It's really, that feels like a sentence. That feels like a sentence that two spies in another country would say to each other.
Yes.
That's like a nonsense sentence. When you say like barking dogs don't carry umbrellas or whatever, it's like that.
It is.
The president, the president before he was president watched Shark Week at the porn star. So
what the fuck is happening?
What happened this week is I saw this entire text online. Yeah. Somebody had posted, it was Seth Andrews had posted it. And I commented on the status, and I'll let you know what I said here. I said the answer to this problem that Trump has with the shark and the battery and all that is that you first have to go to the shore with the shark. And then you have to go back and get the battery. Because if you don't, then you jump the shark.
Oh!
Like all of Trump's possible second term. So
then he asks real quick, do I get electrocuted if the boat is sinking? Water goes over the battery. The boat is sinking. Do I stay on top of the boat and get electrocuted, or do I jump over by the shark and not get electrocuted?
What?
He doesn't.
What is happening in this?
This is a,
you know
what?
Tom, a couple weeks ago, Trump froze without speaking, and a bunch of people were saying it was cognitive decline. They're like, oh, it's cognitive decline. Right. And we watched it, and we thought, no, it doesn't seem like it. And we actually got some people who were upset at us. They sent us messages and said, no, one person said, why shouldn't we lie? Like, why shouldn't we lie about stuff like this? Why shouldn't we paint this as if it was that, if that's the case? And someone else said that we were sticking up for Trump. They said, you guys are sticking up for Trump.
Sticking up for him.
And that neither of those things are true. But I think what I want to say to those people is lying matters, right? Lying matters. Lying about Trump matters, right? It matters to us. If lying doesn't matter, then what Alex Jones did shouldn't have to pay any money. He should still be able to do whatever he wanted, because all he did was lie about stuff. Right. That's all he did. But that's a damaging lie that he told about other people. And if I tell a lie about Trump, that's something that's not true about Trump, I'm telling a lie to try to convince you of something. And I don't think that is definitely, even if it is what you think is high road, I still think that that's a good thing that we should always try to model. We shouldn't try to tell lies about people, especially not when he's on stage. And you can just point to this and say, no, read that and tell me what he meant. Because all the freezing in the world doesn't match this fucking gobbledygook.
No.
This is so much more damning, in my opinion, about what happened. This is way more this is him he has nothing in front of him to tell you. And you can tell he's just a knucklehead. He doesn't have anything bouncing around in his head. He is a very, very, very stupid person.
The article goes on to explain that that's not how batteries, electrocution, boats, and it doesn't go into it, but also sharks don't work that way.
My favorite part of the article is when he's talking about how, sometimes lightning hits water.
And all the fish in the ocean don't die.
It's so fucking funny. This whole article is seriously the fun, but the closing line is genuinely amazing because at the end of the article, he talks about all this stuff about Trump, like what Trump's talking about. Trump keeps talking about it. He's talking about this shark and he's talking about this and he's talking about boats. And then he says, at the end, he says, with that, you have one more bit of information that can inform your presidential vote this November as Trump intended. And I thought, no, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. If this is a man who is giving a literal stump speech for you to vote for him.
Yep.
This is what he's doing. And he is so incoherent. And it's not that I think that he has dementia or anything. I just think he's really stupid. I think that he has always had people, at least before, had people who were near him and close enough to him and that could arrange stuff for him so that the fucking teleprompters wouldn't fail and he could feasibly get by.
Yeah.
He could get by. He tricked a lot of people in 2016. But now he's up there and this is the same guy. He was this stupid in 2016. He just happened to have a higher class of grifter around him that could mask it from us.
Yeah, I think if there's any difference at all, because he was saying insane shit in 2015, 2016. If there's any difference at all, it's that now he's more comfortable going off script because what he's realized is he can say anything, right? This is a guy who has
that's just so true. That is so true.
He does. So I think he just doesn't care. And I don't think his handlers care either. Like he can get up here and he can say all this stupid shit about like boats get heavy and sink and like batteries you fry all the fish in the ocean or whatever. Real quick. If the battery worked like that, wouldn't it also electrocute the shark? Okay, it doesn't work like that, I know. But still, like no matter what, you don't have to worry about the shark if the battery were that powerful.
What if it turned the shark into like a superhero?
Science-y people in the audience may want to know that batteries don't electrocute the whole ocean. They have like a limited effect, like right around them.
Small area.
Because of course they do.
Yeah.
Also, batteries in boats are in sealed containers because of course they are. None of this because of course none of it. Just all of it is dumb. And boats, they also don't make boats that go out into the ocean and sink because they're too heavy. I think you test it in the water. Genuinely.
This is so worth watching and so worth reading. You have to seek this fucking speech out because it's so worth it.
At least give me the women. Get your own women.
This story comes from Vox. The Christian right is coming for divorce next. And we talked a little bit about this a week or two ago.
Yeah, with the HUD director was talking about it.
Ben Carson. Yeah. So the Christian right is coming for no-fault divorce. That is explicit in the Texas Republican Party platform statement.
Yeah.
Ben Carson, the former U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development guy, brain surgeon, and all-around scary man who believes that the pyramids were also granaries, I think.
Salt or something.
Yeah, fucking nutcase. There's been a number of prominent right-wing nut jobs who are coming for no-fault divorce. No-fault divorce, they are saying, is bad for men. This is something I seized on when I read the article. It's bad for men.
Yeah.
It's bad for men because men want to trap women in abusive, shitty marriages. And if they have a no-fault divorce, which we have, they can't do that. It's only bad for you if you're already bad.
Mm-hmm.
This is not bad for you if you're a good person. There's literally no circumstance. You might have your heart broken, right? Like, I get that. But there's no way anybody is like, you know what I want to do? I want to force somebody who doesn't love me to stay in a marriage with me so I can own them, unless you're the fucking worst.
No, you're not wrong. I think, anybody who's ever been in a loving relationship recognizes that they don't want to hurt the person that they're with, right?
Right.
And if, I celebrated my 24th anniversary, but my wife came to me and said, being with you hurts me. I wouldn't want to hurt her anymore.
Right.
I would be like, no, okay, well then I'm going to let you, that's it. Like, that's the end of a relationship then. That's a level at which you have to be ready to, deal with the problems with your own marriage, right? You have to be able to deal with that. If you get into this covenant, if you decide to do this, if you make this promise, there's a lot of strings attached to a promise. Right. And you're going to have to deal with the good and the bad times. And sometimes those bad times are so bad that the whole thing goes away. And it turns out that if you make somebody do something that they don't want to do for a long time, you're going to damage that person, damage the relationship, damage everything around you. It's not just the marriage, right? It's like the kids can get damaged. Your relationship with your family can get damaged. The relationships with your friends can be damaged. All these things this is going to send shockwaves into the rest of your life. So it's not that it's just one thing. It's a lot of things. It's your whole life that can get ruined because someone doesn't want to get a divorce. Having a contract that you can cancel when it comes to something this important is absolutely necessary.
Absolutely.
You should be able to cancel it for any reason.
Yeah.
This is basically every marriage should be the Costco return policy. This is a 70-year-old couch that I have that I no longer want to sit on. Give me my money back. And then Costco's like, yeah, sure.
That's done.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. That's how every marriage should be treated.
It's so funny because it's so telling who you are, Cecil, because your take on it is like, if my wife came to me and she said, this hurts me, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. You're like, all right, well then we're done. And that is so telling about who you are and what your ethics are, because you're like, I don't want to hurt somebody that I love. But also there's the side of it too, where only a fucking complete psychopath would themselves want to be in a relationship with somebody that doesn't love them.
Yeah.
Right. So as soon as if Haley came to me and said, I don't want to be in a relationship with you anymore, immediately I also don't want to be in that relationship, and not high-minded like you, because I don't want to hurt this person, but because I want someone to want me or not. Sure. Right. Like that's essential to so there's like a million reasons to have this in terms of interpersonal. The reason that men specifically and only feel like no-fault marriage hurts them is because they are seeking to keep ownership of women. This is all part of a larger, broader social push for men to establish ownership of women in a deeper and more fundamental and more institutionalized way than we have ever actually had in practice before. They're looking back to an idealized suburban 1950s portion of America that never actually was for most of the people in America. And they are trying to create that through force. And the way when they create that through force, they are creating a second-class chattel out of women, disenfranchising them from the workplace, forcing them to be pregnant, forcing them to stay in marriages they don't want to be in, allowing in most states women specifically to be married off to older men at young ages. We are building a society of slavery, straight up financial slavery for women.
Let me just do one quick correction. We are rebuilding a society.
Yeah.
It's not building, because we're just going back to
But I'm saying I think it's worse than it's ever been.
Yeah,
I think this is
it could be.
Yeah.
It could be. I will say, all of the decisions seem to be pointing towards that.
Yeah.
Jobs certainly points towards more women being pulled out of the workplace because there's no options for them. If you start taking away contraception, like they're talking about doing, they're talking about bringing up a case to try to do something like that. Now you're talking about this in particular, no-fault divorce. They're going to, if they have their way, they may even have who you can marry and who you can't marry.
Yeah, man. Do you know?
No more gay marriages.
Right.
Can't be with women.
Yeah.
If you're a woman, you can't be with a woman.
Gotta be with some dude.
Gotta be with a dude.
And you can't, and you're not going to be allowed to divorce that guy, and you're going to be forced to end up getting pregnant.
Yeah.
And these are the same people. I'm sure of it. It just hasn't come up yet. I'm sure that they will try to get rid of marital rape laws. I'm 100% confident of this. This feels to me like we're on the cusp of, do you remember the pictures that you and I have probably seen so many photos of what Tehran looked like?
Yeah. Before
in the 70s, right? In the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s, where you had women in university, people were walking around in, Western dress. There was freedom, there was education, there was opportunity. I'm not trying to paint things as perfect, and then you contrast that this feels like we're like right there at that same edge, right? Where we're looking at a world where like in a few years we'll be like, hey man, remember when like women were at work? Remember when women had rights? Remember when women had abortion rights? Remember when contraception was a thing? You remember when women didn't have to prove that they were abandoned or abused in order to get divorced from their male captors? What the fuck are we trying to do here? This seems nightmarish, and it's so bad for kids. They always talk about how this is good for families.
Terrible.
This is so bad for kids.
Such a bad thing.
It's so, I mean, it's automatically bad for 51% of kids because those will be girls.
Yeah. But it's also bad for the kids who grow up in it.
Yeah.
You know, it's bad for those kids, and it's bad, and it's only good for one person.
Yeah.
And I would argue it's not even good for them.
Right. Yeah. This is like the only person who would want this is an abuser.
And also the only people who want this are crazy religious people.
Yes.
The only people who think this sort of thing are people who think that the tiny dot inside of a woman that's just a fertilized egg is a life, and that every marriage can't be canceled because you said, like, I promise and pinky swore in front of God.
Yeah.
These are crazy religious people who are trying to inflict that shit on you.
Yep.
What about all the polyamorous people? The people who live in like thruples and shit. What about all those people? Sorry. You know, those people, trust me, man, it's not just one thing. They'll come after gay marriage. They'll come after
100%.
all these other alternative, I call it alternative. I don't mean to disparage it, but different things than monogamy. They're going to come after that too. These people want their version of the world and they want you to follow it. That's the end of the story.
100%, man. 100%. They're looking at building a world that looks a hell of a lot like what Margaret Atwood was writing about.
Absolutely. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for this week. We apologize we didn't do a live stream this week, but we will try to do something next month. I will also probably be going live when Trump gets sentenced. So when July 11th, I'm going to go live that day. Tom's going to be busy that day, but I'm going to go live. So pay attention to the feeds that day, because I'll probably be watching the news with you and I'll be talking about what's happening that day. So pay attention to the feeds leading up to that, and hopefully I'll learn more about when the time frame of that is as we get closer. But I plan to be live when the sentencing happens, so we can talk about it on the chats. So join in if you're not working that day. It's gonna be middle of the day, and it's gonna be like a Tuesday or something. So middle of the day, I might be a Thursday actually. Middle of the day, just pay attention, and then I'll jump on live on Twitch and on YouTube, and then we can just chat about it in the chat. All right, that's gonna wrap it up for this week. Patrons get we're doing a review of The Art of the Deal.
Oh, Lord.
So we're doing the first part of it. I think it's going to be 2 parts. So you can get in on that. If you're not a patron, you can come listen to us talk about The Art of the Deal on the patron side of things. You can go to dissonancepod.com or go to patreon.com/dissonancepod, and you can become a patron on a per episode basis and join in on all the fun of us talking about this amazing book called The Art of the Deal. All right, that's going to wrap it up for this week. We're going to leave you like we always do with the Skeptic's Creed.
Credulity is not a virtue. It's fortune cookie cutter, mommy issue, hypno-Babylon bullshit. Couched in scientician, double bubble, toil and trouble, pseudo quasi alternative, acupunctuating, pressurized, stereogram, pyramidal, free energy healing, watered downward spiral, brain deadpan sales pitch, late night info docutainment. Leo, Pisces, cancer cures, detox, reflex, foot massage, death and towers, tarot cards, psychic healing, crystal balls, Bigfoot, Yeti, aliens, churches, mosques and synagogues, temples, dragons, giant worms, Atlantis, dolphins, truthers, birthers, witches, wizards.
Has everyone gone fucking
nuts? Shaman healers, evangelists, conspiracy, doublespeak, stigmata, nonsense. Expose your sides. Thrust your hands, bloody, evidential, conclusive. Doubt even this.
The opinions and information provided on this podcast are intended for entertainment purposes only. All opinions are solely that of Glory Hole Studios, LLC. Cognitive Dissonance makes no representations as to accuracy, completeness, currentness, suitability, or validity of any information, and will not be liable for any errors, damages, or butthurt arising from consumption. All information is provided on an as-is basis. No refunds. Produced in association with the local Dairy Council and viewers like you.